Hello, beautiful souls. I am back to have a quick discussion. I had done some stories over on my Instagram, and I thought, you know what, this is a video I want to go live. I want to expand upon this because it really came through strong to me this morning, this message. Excuse the lighting, it is rainy today, it is dark, but listen to me. You don't need to look at me, just listen to what I have to say because I am really connecting to this message and I hope that you will resonate with it as well. So if the video is off, don't let that be a distraction, okay? Basically, what I was saying on my stories was that the story of Snow White, the fairy tale of Snow White, has a lot to teach us. And the one thing I want to really pinpoint from that fairy tale is the idea of the mirror, right? So in Snow White, we have the Wicked Witch who has this magic mirror, and the mirror shows her what she needs to see. She doesn't like what the mirror is showing her, so she sets out to destroy the thing that the mirror is showing her, which is that Snow White is the most beautiful thing in the land. And so rather than looking at that and reflecting, right, reflection of a mirror, reflecting, rather than turning inward and reflecting within herself about what emotions are coming up around that. Why does it make her angry? Why does she feel this fear and this shame? Why does she feel the need to destroy this thing? Why does this thing trigger her? Rather than using the mirror as a tool to do some self-reflection, self-examination, she sets out to destroy the thing in the world. And ultimately, what that leads to is her own destruction and her own suffering. And so this is a metaphor for our life, right? Our world is a mirror. Our world is a mirror, and it is always reflecting to us what we need to see. The things that trigger us, the things that grab our attention, those are the things that our subconscious is showing us we need to add some extra care to, pay more attention to, reflect on, because those are the areas where we need to grow in the moment that it's happening, right? So on my stories, I explained this, but I didn't give more specific examples to kind of break it down. So for me, you may know my story, you may not, but I had a very difficult childhood. There was a lot of trauma, there was a lot of abuse and neglect. And when we go through an experience as children, well, even as adults, when we go through an experience, we unconsciously create stories to make sense of the world. And we unconsciously develop interpretations or beliefs about how the world should be in relation to those stories. So for me as a child, I developed the idea, the story that childhood is this magical period of time that's only supposed to be this way, and that's how it should be. Those are the expectations that I held. I did not have a good childhood. I did not have the right childhood. My childhood was not acceptable. Childhood needed to be like the Disney movies or whatever the case may be. I also developed ideas about what parenting is like and how parents should be. And there's nothing wrong with this, right? I needed that interpretation to get me through that period of my life. However, as we grow, our stories expire, right? Our stories have an expiration date. They have a point what we come to where they're no longer serving us. They're no longer helping us. In fact, they're kind of holding us in this childlike state. They're holding us back when we continue to believe these things because it's not aligned with our present reality. We're in a new world. We're older. We've gone through more things. We've gained more experience. We've seen more things. And those stories don't fit anymore where we're at. So when that happens, right, we are going to see examples of this in the world to trigger us, to emotionally activate us, to get those emotions to come up so that we can reflect and get aware of what those stories are that we're still carrying around with us. And it usually is when we're experiencing something similar in our lives. So for me, childhood was a big thing. I carried all these stories around about childhood. And I'm now a parent. I now have a child. And so those stories have expired, right? If I try to hold on to those stories, if I try to be really rigid with how childhood is supposed to be or how parents are supposed to be, that's going to impact how I parent. It's going to impact my relationship with my child. And it's not serving me to continue to hold on to those stories. So when I see things about children in the world, it triggers me. It activates so many emotions in me because the world is a mirror for our subconscious. It's showing us where we need to look at within ourselves and what needs to be adjusted or changed. So in the example of childhood, what I've learned by reflecting, when these things come up, these circumstances, I see children, being treated a certain way. I see something happening to children and it brings up these emotions in me. I've done some reflecting, and what it has shown me, what it has taught me, is that there is no one way for childhood to be, that each of us has the childhood that we need to have. Because if I didn't have the childhood that I had, I wouldn't be the woman that I am today. I might not be as passionate about taking care of my kid or being there for her or being present with her. That might not be as important for me if I didn't go through that painful experience that taught me that that's not what I want, that taught me, what is meaningful to me. At the same time, understanding that my job as a parent isn't to control her childhood and make sure that it's only one way, that she will be okay. She will become a self-actualized person. She will become a fully formed human being, and she's on her own path and her own journey. So all these childhood ideas I developed about what parents are supposed to be like, it's not that they were wrong. It's just that they're no longer serving me in this reality because I am realizing in my own experience that I'm going through now that I'm a human being. Parents, guess what? They're just humans. They're human beings with their own stories, their own pain, their own traumas, all of that, their own unprocessed emotions. And I'm very fortunate and grateful that I have the tools to be aware and be conscious of it, and that I have the willingness and the desire to always, lean into these emotions, to work with them so that I'm regulated, so that I can show up for my child. Does that mean I will be the perfect parent? No, because what I'm learning is that the beliefs that there are perfect parents was a fantasy that I created as a child, and that doesn't exist. And when I see these things happening in the world, again, it was just so that I could look within myself at these stories that I was carrying and I could release them. And releasing them allows me to create new stories, right, based on where I am today. So now I see painful childhoods as initiations. Are they great? No. Is there grief and sadness there? Absolutely. However, they're initiations into the person that we're meant to be. They won't kill us, hopefully. Not always. But knowing that my daughter is going to go through challenges, whether it's with me, whether it's in the world, and that they're going to be initiations, and that she's going to develop the skills and the tools to move through that and to grow through that. And it's going to turn her into the adult that she's meant to be, that I don't need to rescue her from pain in her childhood, that I don't need to be on high alert all the time to prevent her from having any experience that I deem to be, harmful or bad. I'm not the authority on that, right? I'm not the authority on what that is. But what my childhood did teach me is what is meaningful to me. And I can remember the things that caused me pain, such as, nobody paying attention to me, people neglecting me, being told harsh things, being criticized, all of those things. I can remember those things and not repeat that as a parent. So those experiences did have things to teach me, did have things to mine for me, and I can remember that. But I can't do that if instead of reflecting, I decide to campaign and criticize all the parents in the world and talk about how all these people caused all this childhood trauma and make that my focus. That's re-traumatizing for people. A lot of people online, I think in an effort to help people, are always talking about this. Oh, your parent, this is why you have this pain as an adult, because your parents did this and this and that. And that's really re-traumatizing for people, because you're not teaching people that despite those things, they have made it to adulthood. They have made it to a state of life where they have agency, where they can make choices for themselves, where they can take action for themselves, where they don't need to suppress their personal power, right? That's what I try to do with my messaging is saying that yes, you're going to be emotionally triggered. Yes, you're going to feel difficult emotions. And that's good because those emotions are bringing you information. Those things that are reflecting to you are saying, hey, here's where you can grow. Here's where you can release these things that no longer serve you. Because you're not in a place where you have to suppress your power anymore. You're in a place where you have personal power. You can make decisions for your life. You can take action, right? And so when we try to just avoid our emotions and push them away and say, I don't want to see those things in the world. I'm just going to curate it so that I don't see those things. I'm going to, make sure that I create a life. I put myself in a bubble. I don't want to see those things because they trigger me. Instead of reflecting on where is that trigger, what is that story that needs to be released, understanding that it's actually showing you something that's going to help you grow. It's actually going to be better for you to feel that. It's actually going to be better for you to release that finally, because you're at a state in your life where you can. It's only coming up because it's time for it to come up. It's time for it to be released. And so now, does it make me sad when I see people, mistreating their kids, or I see people treating their kids the way that I was treated? Of course that sadness is there. But the other amazing part of this is that I don't see it as much. The world isn't reflecting it back to me because it's not something that I need to work on. Does it mean that it's not happening in the world? Of course not. But it's not what I'm seeing. It's not what's catching my attention. And that's another beautiful part of actually working and healing these things, is that they're no longer reflecting it to us. If the evil queen in Snow White had actually done some self-reflection and realized maybe that instead of trying to kill Snow White, she could accept the fact that, Snow White is beautiful, and I need to decide that I'm beautiful, and I need to see myself as beautiful. Maybe she would have seen herself in that mirror instead, right? The world will reflect to us what we need to see. So if something triggers us, if we're seeing something everywhere, that's really, really important that we slow down, we honor what is coming up, we look at it and we realize, okay, this is a time of transformation for me. Something within me is wanting to be released and shifted, and new stories need to be formed so that I can move forward in my life and I can evolve, right? And I can let those things go, and I can replace them with the things that I need for this stage of my life, right? And that's liberating, it's freeing, and it allows all of the positive emotions that we want to feel, joy and gratitude and peace and serenity. It allows them to come through because we've cleared out the things that need to be cleared out. And then the world reflects beautiful things back to us. We see the things that we ultimately want to see reflected back to us. So I encourage you, if this speaks to you, to just think about the things that trigger you. Think about the things that you feel like you're seeing all the time, that you want to avoid, that you don't want to see. And think about what might be there, what the lesson might be there for you, right? When you think about your own life, you think about your past, you think about your present, you think about where you want to go in the future. What is it saying to you? What is it showing you? Because it's reflecting it to you for a reason. And the reason is to help you evolve and to grow and to step into your power. That's always the reason, by the way, is to step into your power. So with that, I hope that you can continue to be gentle with yourself, because you're a human being and life can be difficult, but all the tools you need are within you. You just need to learn how to activate them. Okay, sending you love, and I will see you in another video whenever the inspiration strikes. Bye.